A while ago, I sat down with a notebook and a calendar, and I made a timeline of like the biggest events of my life, and then smaller events that were important. And in the course of my whole life, I found out that they worked in about 3 year cycles. And there would be key events and then corresponding secondary events about the same amount of time in between. So it wasn't annual. It wasn't like every 10 years or something. It seemed to be about every 3 years. And September always seemed to be an important month. So, like, I was able to look at when I got a wild hair up my ass and committed to new things, like when I enlisted, when I fell in love, when I sought new employment, when I moved. I never planned to do them at those times during those years. I always thought it was happenstance, but there it was. There's the cycle. And I'm fond of the idea of cycles. It gives me something to cling to. Because, there's cycles in farming, and there's cycles in computers. The day-night cycle, that's what we're used to. It seems the most natural thing. So I think that instead of measuring people by intelligence, sorry, I really wasn't doing hands, like, none of that. I just had a fucking tickle on my eye. Maybe it's not a measure of intelligence or, what is it, predecided grace, like maybe it's a measure of our ability to operate at our own frequency. And if we try to operate outside of our own frequency, then we lose the harmony, we lose the rhythm, we baffle ourselves, we confound ourselves. I think you can get what I'm saying. So, what if we know that we have cycles of growth in us and cycles of, I don't want to say departure, but how about, for me, they used to say it was bipolar. He was too excited when he was a child, and then he got depressed, and it was in week periods, and 2 weeks, three, whatever. And then it was rapid cycle, bipolar, manic, depressive, narcissist, whatever. But they were telling me that I operated on a cycle, and I should have paid closer attention. I shouldn't have been trying to medicate or whatever. So my advice would be to find your rhythm, find your cycle, find your tempo, find your melody, and march to it. Now, I know that seems like, oh, okay, yeah, find your own speed and rhythm, got it. That sounds pretty standard. Well, I want to add more because this is on my mind, because somebody wonderful sent me something beautiful, and it really did what I hoped all correspondence would do, got me to reflect upon myself and the nature of others. This one did not. And you see, my nature has been to find the limits of my cycle. Like, yes, I went along with the current, but I needed to see how far I could go, because I guess I get bored easy. I have a powerful imagination. I like to be proven wrong. But additionally, it seemed that sometimes I was aware, sometimes I wasn't, but I have a habit of, when it comes to finding that boundary, that extreme, that fringe, I did so with unnecessarily reckless disregard for my well-being. What do I mean to say? When I was in the Army, I remember very clearly this other soldier come up to me and he says, "Don't lift like that, you'll hurt your back." And I'm like, you ain't my fucking drill sergeant, man, motherfucker. I'm a grown ass man. I'm the strongest motherfucker out here. You know, like, you ain't gonna tell me. And here I am at 40, going, God, my back hurts every day. And like, yeah, I did the work. And yeah, it was a matter of pride and all that. And it seems like a pretty simple, silly example, but it's kind of me to a T. Like, oh, don't do that with that relationship. You'll burn that bridge. Well, that was pretty sound advice that I didn't take. And here I am regretting the bridges that I've burnt. Some of them, not all. And another thing, this, this, I also noticed that no matter my cycles, I always remain the baseline. I've never stopped being the child that I was. And that being said, like, no matter how much I develop intellectually or socially or worldly, I'm still that kid. And that kid is timid around new things, conscientious of other people, um, scared of the deep dark, boastful, arrogant, cocky. Those, like, I try to temper, moderate, control, define, chisel out, but it's still the same mineral. It's still the same source material, right? I'm not gonna change composition. I'm just gonna adjust my form. And so that part of that kid was flying too high. Part of that kid was thinking I know best. Part of that kid was flaunting it in the face of other people, my advantages, standing on top of the rock or climbing the tree and laughing down. And I know that it's wrong now, and I do my best to deal with it, but that's still my fucking nature. And so when I was a little kid, I just didn't want to deal with people sometimes because I had too much going on up here and I couldn't deal with what they were doing. I didn't want to clutch my speed, my emotions, my empathy, I, I was selfish, and I still am, and I work on it. But back to something I was trying to nudge at is, as a kid, I needed a kick in the ass to do a lot of the things that I did, and at first it was external, and then I generated it internally. I still need the kick in the ass, but it comes from me, not from a parent or guardian or drill sergeant, right? So how do I kick myself in the ass? How do I motivate myself? Well, sometimes I do burn them bridges, right? Sometimes I pull the ripcord, Sometimes I put the pedal to the floor. And that's not the most rational thing in the world. But I saw something yesterday from another good friend about real change is affected by the irrational, because they are scope locked on the future and not the compromise of the masses. So, I don't know, it was a little bit of a ramble there. I'll try to see if I can't sum it all up so it makes sense to me. So we're going through this parabola of cycles. I think that if you took the time, you might detect them yourself. There's the cycles of life, and they all stack. You see, I am born, I grow, I age, and I pass. And my day is that, and these cycles are in between that. It's just a layer sandwich, head of cabbage, whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing, what is that? Fibonacci, all right on top of itself. So find your cycle and then tune into it and understand that you're not going to change your original signal. Like, you can amplify it and edit it and adjust it a little bit. But bro, like, blue is always going to be blue, and apple's always going to be an apple. You are always going to be you. Like, trying to pretend that you're Jesus or Hitler or your great grandfather or a cartoon or no, just tweak and fine tune you, because you are your own melody. You're like, if God spoke and gave us all life, then you are a song. Sing your own song, dance to your own song, because there's beauty in that. Like, that's that actualization I'm talking about. That's like, what's the best you could be beyond yourself? And that, what was it? Uh, Scandinavian saying, the just enough is the perfect amount. Just enough of you, right? Just enough of me. I'm tired of writing checks my ass can't cash. And I am reluctant to be a symbol to anybody, so pardon my thorns, but I I struggle with resenting audience, because y'all shouldn't be listening to me for anything other than some kind of like thread of sanity or monicum of motivation, and then be getting the fuck out there and doing it. I'm derusting gas tanks today. I'm talking to the Department of Land Management, and I have to deal with a lawyer here in a minute and order pills, and I'm reading up on composting. Like, I don't want to entertain you, so I hope that I don't. But if I amuse you, then I amuse myself, because part of my nature is, as shy as that little kid is to feel at home with others. So I'll hope that you don't mind my brooding and pouting and distance, because I still love you all, and I'm still here kicking ass and taking names in my own way. My rhythm doesn't really match up with most other people's all the time, so don't take offense if I'm a little bit, uh, out there. All right, so now let's sum up the summing up. Let's finish this up. Find your rhythm. Know that enemy evil has its own rhythm, and it wants to, if it can't get you to march to the beat of it, it wants you to implode on yourself or to destroy the other rhythms around you. So, no, be yourself, and then you'll fall right into place, like a peg puzzle. When they carve them out of wood and you get there and it pops right in. Just be yourself. Just know who you are, be yourself, find your tempo, dance, rejoice. And looking at your cycle means you can analyze it. You can figure out, well, it gets cold at night because the sun goes down. Well, yeah, you got that. You can figure that out. And yes, the whites will rise up when the Jews release enough fucking monsters into society. Yeah, you can figure that one out. But can you figure out what it takes to motivate yourself? What chain of events, what alchemy, what process takes for you to get your burner fired up? Because if you can do that, you unlock some pretty stout magic, don't you? Like I said at the beginning of this, I know that September has consistently been my month, definitely on 3-year cycles. But there's times a day too, and then there's years, and then there's seasons and all that. But it's also event driven too, like where you're at with relationships and where you're at with your thoughts on your feelings towards your progress towards your goals. In other words, your outlook. So relationships, time, and your outlook, those are factors to start to begin looking at if you wanted to analyze the tempo of your life. Again, I hope any of that makes sense. I hope you know that I do. I love all of you, even the filthy fucking kikes that might be watching this. Because it's God made me here to appreciate what He made. So I appreciate it all. Somebody said, let's be Cheshire Cats and smile as the world falls apart. Well, God made them Cheshire Cats too. Can't deny that, can I? I love you all. Godspeed.